Hey, my name is Clint Dupin, and I'm one of the pastors here at Eastown. So thankful that you joined us today. I think the next few minutes are going to have an impact on your life. Before we get into that, I want to just mention a few things. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, whatever platform, I want you to subscribe because I believe the messages that we share are going to have an impact on your life. I also want to encourage you to share these messages because I think they can impact others as well. One of the things I always encourage people to do, if you are in the San Ramon area, I want to encourage you to drop in. In person is always better, right? So if you're in the East Bay of San Francisco, I would love to meet you. Now, our mission is all about bringing the love and the hope of Jesus Christ. Because I believe if you discover Jesus and you choose to follow Jesus, it will radically change your life and you will live in a life of freedom. I want you to consider one more thing. If Eastown has had an impact in your life, I want you to consider giving because we could not do it without the generosity of people like you. You can do that safely by going to easttown.church/give or simply downloading our Easttown Church app and you can give safely there as well. Hey, today is going to be great and I believe it will have an impact on your life. I hope you enjoy.
We at Easttown have been going to this series called Worth the Wait, and we are working our way, counting down towards Christmas in Advent. And if you were here last week, we actually lit one of the candles to celebrate our first week, and Danielle, let's see if I can do this. Danielle spoke last week about waiting, and I want to thank her for doing that. And this week, we're going to be talking about peace, specifically peace and peacemaking. Okay, awesome, that worked. And maybe you're new to church, maybe you're new to faith, maybe you're exploring this, and Advent's like, is that like Trader Joe's chocolate thing? Yes, it is. And maybe you've been around church for a while and you know exactly what Advent is. You're used to kind of that countdown for Christmas. But one of the things that Advent is all about is this kind of waiting period up until Christmas. And we talked about waiting last week, and I got to tell you, I am literally the poster boy for being a terribly impatient person. I'm like the worst waiter of all time. I hate waiting for something. I really like to go to concerts, and if I know that the concert is coming, it's like on my calendar, it's circled, and my wife is like, you are really annoying, because I'm like, hey, 6 more days, 5 more days, 4 more days. And I almost like can't function outside. I'm just so terrible at waiting, and I'm that way with Christmas too. I'm really excited about Christmas. But what I've actually found about Advent and about waiting is more about what it reveals in me during that time period than it is about just maybe being impatient or things like that. So we're going to jump in, and a lot of this series is based on this book by Rich Viotis, and it kind of goes through Advent. I'd encourage you to go on Amazon. I think we have a couple copies out there, and buying that. It's a really great way to kind of set your heart and your mind in the right spirit as we go, as we work through Advent. And so I got a quote from this book called Waiting for Jesus. Advent teaches us to hold tension, longing for the world to be made right while living in a world that is still painfully wrong. And my guess is, I really like that quote, my guess is you can probably resonate with that back half of that quote, living in a world that is still painfully wrong. You look around and you go, this is not how things should be, right? You think about the kind of polarization in our world, the growing divide between people, the tension, the war, the family fractures, right? People are exhausted. And you go, this should not be the way that things are. And that's true. And Jesus, and this is what Advent and Christmas is all about, is that Jesus came to set things right again. And that the world is not the way that it's supposed to be, and that Jesus has a plan to make that right, to almost like we were talking about in the song, to kind of mend that broken pot, that broken vase, and make it more beautiful than it was. And so there's a verse in Isaiah, and it goes like this. It goes, "For a child is born to us, a son is given to us. The government will rest on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace." And that's maybe a word or an idea that you're like, oh, I would love some peace. Maybe you have children in the room and you're like, goodness, I don't even know what that means anymore. But I want you to know that Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and he actually came again at Christmas to provide us peace. He is the Prince of Peace, and I want to hear this, not the Prince of Quiet, not the Prince of Avoidance, not the Prince of let's not talk about it, everything's fine if we just pretend it's fine. but the actual Prince of Peace. And we're going to talk about what that looks like today, because peace is not simply ignoring conflict. It's not just saying, okay, I'm just not going to deal with that thing and everything will be fine. Peace actually means something far different than we often think it does. I think sometimes in my mind, I go, okay, peace would just be, if things would just settle down and be quiet, I will find peace. If I just maybe get a day off of work, or maybe I just, have some time by myself, I'll finally find peace. But peace is actually this wholeness, this restored relationships, and it's God putting things back together. In psychology, they have these two terms, disintegration and integration. And we live in a disintegrated world, right? Relationships are broken. There's tension. It's just not the way it should be, like I said before. But Jesus has come to integrate our lives together for us to experience something called shalom. Now, that's maybe a new word for some of you, but there's a biblical word for peace called shalom. I'm a teacher, and so I'm going to have you, we're going to do this. Ready? Everybody say shalom. Very good. Yeah, okay. So shalom is not actually like no conflict or no tension, but it's actually the presence of God within that to provide peace. The world, like I said, Jesus will come back and set things right. He has not yet, but we can be a part of that now by actually experiencing shalom when we rely on him. Jesus does not wait for the world to be like good, or wait for you to be good before he enters. In fact, he steps into the chaos of this divided world. And so if your life feels chaotic, if it feels complicated, maybe your emotions are heavy, maybe there's a restrained relationship, you're coming into the room with something going on, most likely all of us are. Advent will tell us that Jesus is actually not scared of your chaos, not scared of the thing that you feel like you've got to hide, not worried about that, okay, fix that and then I will come. Fix that and then you can come to me, but instead wants to meet you there. And actually, peace is not this kind of like just emptiness of conflict, right? It's actually Jesus being with us within it. So I'm going to go over a few things. A friend of mine said she likes it when I speak because I'm a teacher and I have like points, and that's really helpful. Sasha, thank you. My first point is this. Peacemaking begins with receiving peace, not achieving it. And I think one of my favorite things from the book when he talked about peace was Rich Vieira said that peacemaking and peace actually begins inside of us. And so there's this really great movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's a movie called Lion King. Everyone's, if you have not seen Lion King, there's going to be some spoilers in here, but you're a little late to the party. In Lion King, right, like Simba gets framed by his evil uncle. He runs away, lives this kind of carefree life, but he's not fully at peace, right? There's this disintegrated relationship. He knows he's got a greater responsibility, and he meets with Rafiki, right? And Rafiki's like, what he tells him, it begins inside of you. You have to start with the work inside of you. You cannot actually give what you do not have. And so if you are in relationships that lack peace, you have to start with you. A lot of us are trying to fix conflict but still have so much conflict within us that we have not dealt with and we have not actually worked through. We're trying to be patient while we're totally exhausted. We're trying to reconcile with other people, but our hearts are still angry and defensive. And we're trying to love other people while we're running on fumes. A great theologian named Watchman Nee said this. He said, an unpeaceful mind cannot operate normally. And Advent reminds us of this, is that we don't actually manufacture peace. It's not something you're like, okay, I'm gonna wake up every morning and I'm gonna work on this peace thing, and I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna figure it out. It is important to put yourself in a position to receive peace, but I want you to understand that you need to meet with the one who is peace, and that is Jesus. Jesus doesn't hand out peace. He's not Oprah being like, peace for you, peace for you, peace for you, peace for you, right? Younger people are probably like, who's Oprah? Does she still have a show? Oh, that's really sad. Thank you. Jesus does not hand out peace like a product. It's not like that. Jesus actually will give you peace. There's a verse in the Bible that talks about it going beyond our understanding, meaning it doesn't make sense. And so you might be having these chaotic, tense, worn out moments. And when you meet with Jesus, you experience something that goes beyond your understanding. maybe the situation hasn't reconciled. Maybe it actually has not been fixed. I'll think about this in my own life a lot because, if you know, my wife and I have fostered for many years, and our most recent foster girl like wrecked us. And what I mean by that is like we loved her like she was our own. And then she reunited with her mom, and there's been we've kept a relationship, and there's been a lot of ups and downs in that relationship. And we miss her. We wish she would come back. But we're like, no, it's good that you're with your mom. But also at the same time, we're like, come back. And so we've kept in touch with her, but there are so many times where I can feel this like tension within me of like, I don't know what's best. I actually, like, God, will you just figure that out for me and give me a solution? But instead what often happens is God does not fix things the way that I think he should fix them. Maybe it's still even unresolved. It is in this case. It's still open. It's still unresolved. There's still tension there for me. But when I take time to meet with Jesus, to spend time with Jesus, to open myself up to the Spirit providing me peace, something happens to me at a soul level. I can actually get through the thing with the power of the Spirit rather than trying to do that on my own and living in this tension. And so my question for you is, have you received the peace of Christ in the places where you feel unrest? Could be in your anxiety, could be in your disappointment, could be in your anger, could be in some unspoken resentment. And my encouragement to you is, because a lot of times what we do is we compartmentalize, right? We're like, Jesus, it's all yours except for this thing. I'll actually deal with this thing on my own in my way. But I would encourage you, because a lot of times we're like, Jesus doesn't really meet me there. I would encourage you to ask yourself, have I asked Jesus to meet me there? Have I actually put myself in a position to receive his peace, or am I trying to just kind of grab the steering wheel and drive this thing on my own? Because I do that all the time. All the time. And I'm going to tell you, that thing that might be what makes you unpeaceful is the thing you most need to bring to the light. I went through a phase of my life, this is me opening up the window of my soul, where I was essentially living a double life, right? A lot of deception, and I could not live at peace. Most people would probably say, no, you're good. You seem great on the outside. But internally, I was ripped into pieces. And it wasn't until I brought that stuff to the light, started that process within me, did the work, and got some healing that I actually experienced the peace of Jesus in my life. The lies, the deception, all of that thing will tear you apart. But Jesus wants to provide wholeness to that. He wants to put you back together, like that song that we talked about. If you have a war zone inside your soul, inside your heart, Jesus desires to heal it. He does. All right, number 2. Peacemaking requires courage, not comfort. There is a difference between peacemaking and peacekeeping. Peacekeeping tends to avoid conflict. If you're watching online, we love you. If my mom is watching online, I love you, Mom, but this is on you. My mom is incredibly non-confrontational. And as you know, sometimes you pick up practices from your family of origin, and I picked up that practice. I hate confrontation. On the Enneagram scale, I'm a 7. We don't want to deal with pain. We only want to have good times. That's me to a T. And when something happens, I just want to keep the peace. So if you say something unkind to me, I'm kind of like, okay, no big deal. If there's like tension in the relationship, I'm just like, hey, it's all good. Even if there was damage done to me, it's okay. I don't want to deal with that thing because I just want to keep the peace. And what I have found in my own life, and I know is true, is that when you do that, you're in fact storing those things up internally, and it will break you apart. And so what Jesus talks about a lot in the Bible is not peacekeeping, but is instead about peacemaking. And it's actually stepping into conflict in a healthy way. It's stepping into conflict through the power of the Spirit in your life with Jesus as a part of it. And it's about revealing God's heart in it. It's not about winning the argument, which is often the direction we head to. It's about choosing compassion when defensiveness feels a little bit easier. It's about naming the truth with humility rather than hostility. It's being the first to apologize, even if you think you're only like 10% wrong. And it's staying at the table when you feel like walking away, right? I would I'm married. I'm quite imperfect, as you can probably imagine. And I would prefer when there is a tense moment to just say, okay, like, let's not worry about this and we'll deal with it later. And then maybe we just won't deal with it later and it'll be great. But I have found that it just builds over time. And when I step into, hey, that hurt my feelings, or hey, I was off in that was on me, but also naming the truth, there's so much more health there. Jesus desires that for us. He desires wholeness and health and integration. There's a great verse in Romans 12 that goes like this, and it's from a section where they're saying, here's the marks of people who follow Jesus. Here's what they look like. Never pay back evil with more evil. Do things in such a way that everyone can see you are honorable. Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. And so maybe the question is, am I doing all of those things? Is there a relationship where I lack peace, but it's time for me to step up to the table and actually confront that in a Christ-like way? Not with anger, not with hostility, not with bitterness, but with love and kindness and truth. Now, this is really important. I want you to hear this. Peacemaking does not mean enabling abuse or erasing boundaries. If there is, challenging relationships in your life that are incredibly unhealthy, and you need to step away from those, you have to know the difference between, okay, I think I can build that bridge back, or that is something that has actually been very, very harmful, because Jesus never avoided difficult truth, and he never tolerated people being harmed. There's a really great story in the Bible where Jesus tosses some tables, literally outside of the temple, and he's full of truth in his approach to people who were taking advantage of the poor and the immigrant as they were coming to visit the temple. And they were ripping them off and taking advantage of them financially. And Jesus goes in and literally throwing some tables over. Now, I don't think you should do that at your house, but Jesus does not say, hey, just kind of be a doormat, get stepped all over. That's not what he's saying. But there are relationships in our life where we have let our own pride, where we have let ourselves kind of take over, and those relationships are broken because of it. Peacemaking is the courageous work of pursuing reconciliation where possible, honesty where necessary, and love at all times. A good question to always ask ourselves is, am I approaching this with love, or am I approaching this with pride and a desire to be right? And if the answer is pride and desire to be right, it's time to go back to step one and start working within ourselves. Jesus came during Advent season to enter this broken world, not to avoid conflict, but to transform it. I am literally a poster boy again for the fact that conflict can be done healthily. I have seen it happen. But you have to rest on Jesus being a part of that process and not our own way. All right, third one. Peacemaking is a community project. Look at that. Viotis, in his book, talks about this. It's never a solo act, right? In fact, Jesus wants to form us as a people of peace. And so if you're at Eastown this morning, Jesus has a plan for us to be a people of peace together. And at Eastown, it might look like this. We forgive quickly rather than holding on to grudges. We listen before assuming the worst. We choose unity over uniformity. We pray for those who frustrate us. It's a tough thing. We refuse to degrade people who are made in God's image. And we stay curious instead of combative. I'm actually going to read through those again because I think they're that important. And I want you to, maybe you're an eyes closed type person, and if you are, you can close your eyes. And I want you to think in your mind how different Eastown might be, because we said this at the very beginning. Eastown is not these four walls. It's not just a Sunday morning, right? The Eastown community is actually a community of people who are out in the bay, in the day-to-day where you work and you live and you play, which is what we've said for a long time. And so I want you to imagine if we had these characteristics as followers of Jesus in our lives. We forgive quickly rather than hold grudges. We listen before assuming the worst. We choose unity over uniformity. We pray for those who frustrate us. We refuse to degrade people made in God's image. And we stay curious instead of combative. I want you to imagine that in this community and in the Bay, and how we can actually be difference makers by bringing God's peace to people's lives in the way that we treat them, in the way that we interact, in the way that we live our lives out each day to day. Where people could disagree without destroying each other, where broken relationships could heal, and where people see a different kind of love. Not a passive love, but an active love. There is a world waiting for peace, and Jesus has a plan for you and I to bring it to the world out there. They want to see it embodied in his people, to show other people a new way. Peacemaking is also, here's my next one, participating in God's future right now. A lot of theologians will use the term when it comes to the kingdom of Jesus as something that is now, but also not yet. And like I said at the beginning, right? Like Jesus came back, he's going to return to set the world right, to rebuild it the way it should be. Full integration, wholeness, good relationships, that idea of shalom is coming. However, it's also coming now. We have the opportunity to understand that the world is not what it should be yet, but that Jesus is still in the process of actually making all things new, and we get to be a part of that. In the Lord's Prayer in Matthew, it says this, Jesus says, your kingdom come, your will be done. And we pray for Jesus to be a part of bringing about his kingdom in our lives by being people of peace, by being peacemakers. And a lot of times I think what we do is we get a little skeptical in our minds. I'll be honest with you. I get a little skeptical in my mind sometimes. Like, no, Jesus will come back and that'll be great. But I don't know if I can actually be a part of bringing this about. I would encourage you to start small. Figure out one relationship in your life that maybe needs peace in it. Figure out one maybe tense thing that's sitting maybe right here or right here in your mind. And say, okay, I'm going to invite Jesus into the process of making peace within that area. And it might mean having courage. It might mean doing some internal work beforehand. But I would encourage you to live today as if Jesus' kingdom was already here. Because one day it will be. Jesus will be here. His kingdom will be here. And every act of forgiveness, every moment of gentleness, every brave apology, every boundary held with love, every conflict approached with humility is actually like this signpost pointing towards that day. And there's a really great verse that goes like this. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, and we shall study war no more. There is a point coming in our world where conflict will be gone, where tension, where racism, where degradation, where all of those things will disappear, because Jesus will come back and set those things right. But until then, because the future isn't necessarily very far off, but until then, we can actually be a part of bringing his kingdom in small ways. It might look like that in your workplace, where maybe some people are gossiping and you choose not to engage. You become a person of peace. Where there is somebody making a joke that you know is not appropriate and you don't engage, right? You become a person of peace within your workplaces, within your families, within the way you treat your children. There's an opportunity for us to bring about his kingdom. My last point is this. Peace begins with a yes. Peace begins with a yes. Advent doesn't ask us to pretend that everything is fine, but it does invite us to open our hearts to something new, right? And this idea of not necessarily perfection, but to Jesus' presence in your life. And so maybe during this Advent season, your prayer needs to be one of a few things. Maybe it's, Jesus, bring your peace to places I've been avoiding. Maybe it's, Jesus, give me the courage to pursue peace where I've grown cold. Or maybe it's simply, Jesus, I need your peace. So I'm going to read those three again. I'm a teacher. Jesus, bring your peace to the places I've been avoiding. Jesus, give me the courage to pursue peace where I've grown cold. Or simply, Jesus, I need your peace. And I want to remind you that peace is not just a task. It's not one more thing on your to-do list that you need to get done. It's not something that you got to go, okay, it's right there, and if I just work really, really hard, I can get it. But a lot of times it's taking the control that we often do, the tight grip over things, and going like this and saying, Jesus, take over. I want to do the things your way, not my way, even though a lot of times I think my way is the best way. And a lot of times what will happen is you will get a gift that goes beyond your understanding, a gift of peace in your life, and a reminder that the Prince of Peace is coming and is coming still. I'm going to pray over you, and then we're going to have just a moment of reflection before the band comes. And I just want you to think, maybe what is that kind of next step in your life? Maybe you're here and you go, whoa, I'm all new to this, and you were talking about things that I'm not quite sure. I'll hang around down in this area afterwards, and I'd love to have a conversation with you about what it might look like to take that next step towards following Jesus. Maybe you've been around this whole following Jesus thing for a really, really long time, but you're holding on to that one area in your life that lacks peace, and I would encourage you to do that with this. And so take that moment of reflection after I pray and ask God what he might be showing you this morning and what he might want to reveal to you. Let me pray. Jesus, we are weary people living in a weary world, but you are the Prince of Peace. Enter the places in us that feel chaotic. Heal the relationships that feel strained. God, grant us courage to be peacemakers, not through our own strength, but actually through your Spirit. God, I make Eastown a community where your peace is so clear, tangible, unavoidable. And God, most of all, I pray for open hearts during this Advent season, God, and that we become carriers of your peace to our weary world. In your name, amen.
We hope you enjoyed today, and thanks again for taking the time just to tune in. If you have any questions about Eastown or what it means to put your trust and faith in Jesus, we have many resources available on our website. If you have more questions than what you can find on the website, simply email us at info@eastown.church, and we would love to connect with you. We believe the church should be making a positive difference in your life and in the community in which we exist. And we can only do that through people's generosity. If that is something you would like to do, simply visit eastown.church/give. And again, thanks again for joining us. Tune in next week. Or hey, better yet, visit us in person. Have a great day.